It had been 30 years since my last first date. Butterflies were rioting in my stomach. I slipped over to the restroom and I looked in the mirror. I smoothed my hair, I fixed my lipstick, and I checked out all those lines that had found a home in my face since my last first date 30 years earlier. And then I walked into the tapas restaurant feeling like I was walking naked into an auditorium, and I smiled. It went fine, it really did. But then I was off on a succession of first dates. 1 year earlier, I had made a life-shattering decision to end my 28-year marriage to the person who was the source of my happiness, my emotional stability, my financial stability, the father of my children, and the person who shared my most intimate memories. That, of course, involved a lot of other aha moments. But that story, or mini-series, is really what it should be. It's for another time. So as the dust settled from all of this, I chose to take another chance on love. I was tentative and uncertain. I was a month shy of 60 at the time. But I always understood from a very early age that love is life's centrifugal force. And if that's true, why not reach for it? So in those early months of dating, I met a plethora of lovely people, but I was overwhelmed. The first dates really felt like job interviews, right? People mostly shared their CV and some of the trauma of their bad marriages. And they all had bad marriages because that's why they were meeting me. And I didn't really feel like I knew anyone, right? I wasn't able to keep straight who hailed from Chicago, who was from Portland, who went to Yale, who went to Cornell, who had 2 kids, who had 3 kids. And if I went on a second date, I'd never be able to keep it straight. And basically, the problem was more than that. I had no sense of what my date's essence was. What set them on fire? What made them alive? And I had to figure out how to get to that point. So here was my aha. And I think being 333 Quest women, you will appreciate this. The only relationships worth having are those where you feel truly known and where you feel someone knows you. And these relationships can only exist when you expose your vulnerabilities and your unpolished narratives, the parts that lie beneath the pretty pictures that we tell to the world. So I realized in that moment that transparency is the only way to be known and to know another. It's a precursor for love and for all forms of connection. Yet many are afraid of transparency, right? Because you have to expose your imperfections, and it invites judgment. It takes personal courage to let down your guard, to show up, and to be seen. Psychologists affirm that sharing deeply personal information is essential for building intimacy and trust and fostering a genuine connection. Openness is a bold act of authenticity. There is an ancient Zulu greeting that I have long loved. The word is Sawubona. It literally means, I see you. It implies, I know you. I recognize and honor your worth, your passions, your pain, strengths, weaknesses, and life experiences. So much better than when you meet someone than to say, how are you, right? Isn't that the goal of every human interaction? In this new stage of life, I needed to reach Sawubona. And here's what I did. I crafted a question that jump-started a deeper conversation. It had the potential to pierce through the fog of everyday noise and reveal who the individual was before their life had been upended. So I would introduce my question by saying, I don't want to hear about your crazy ex-wife, because they all profess to have a crazy ex-wife. Rather, I would say, what do you read? What do you think about? What makes your heartbeat faster? There's time for all that other stuff. And it worked. Or it didn't. And if it didn't work, it still worked because it gave me a sense of what I needed to know. So after a pause, the discussion often elevated into discussions of literature and history, revelations about ambitions long ago put on the shelf, dead ends, hopes dashed, and reflections on who the individual was back in college, high school, or even earlier. The question most generally surfaced long forgotten and often joyful stories, bringing lightness and intimacy to the conversation. In turn, I would share anecdotes about my life before it took my unexpected turn, offering tidbits about dabbling in theater, my love of poetry, and a passion for politics. Through this line of inquiry, we often reach Sawubona. I think the seeds of this aha moment really were planted first in my early 20s when I graduated from college, and I was developing a fresh circle of friends. Of course I had people. We always had people in our lives in college, right? But I found myself wondering, were these my people? Were these the people I wanted to go through my young adulthood with? I mean, we could happily spend time together, right? But was there a deeper vibrational connection? Did we share an emotional cadence? Was there a resonance of values, curiosity, and spirit? I had not yet learned the word Sawubona, but its essence is what I was seeking. I found my people. I found them when I walked into my first job working for Cleveland Mayor Dennis Kucinich. Does anyone know who he was or remember him? He was a firebrand who was challenging the elite interests running the city of Cleveland. And here's the best part. My coworkers were urban populists. Many of them had moved to Cleveland from all over the country. They wanted to be rainmakers. I did too. They cared deeply about the underserved, and they led with a fierce empathy. These were my people. We were instantly kindred. I would not have found these people had I accepted another job I had been offered at IBM, a corporate entity, where they would have paid for my graduate education and offered me a much higher salary, so I would not have had to calculate at the end of an evening whether I could afford a second glass of wine, as I did in this job. So these early relationships demonstrated how enriching and joyful it is to be among those who live a shared core purpose. This nascent aha trained me to search for kindred spirits throughout all of the following decades. One more anecdote. When my children were playing sports in middle school, I found myself suddenly thrown onto the bleachers with all kinds of moms and dads, people I didn't know, opening the possibility of new friendships. How would I know if they were my people? So here's what I did. When I met a new mom or dad, I would listen, just that. I stopped talking, and I listened to what they told me in that earliest conversation. And it worked. People, all of us, you do it too, I do it, all of us will convey what is important to them. But you have to listen. I remember distinctly one man telling me that he had a house on the Cape. If you're not from New England, that's Cape Cod. And that he had a very important job right off. No judgment. Those were his priorities. And then there were the moms, right? The moms who proudly told me that they were at-home moms. And then the other moms, and I was in that category, who got excited talking about their careers and their children. So it was just a way to get a sense of how do you get to know that person? So think about it. What do you tell people initially when you meet someone you don't know? It's worth thinking about, because if you're not telling them something that's really important or core to who you are, if you're just making small talk, you're going to miss that opportunity for a vibrational connection. So I do it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm Italian. I talk with my hands. So when you meet me, if you let me chatter on, I'll toss out breadcrumbs by mentioning a book I've recently read, because I am always on the hunt for fellow readers. I'll drop a reference to poetry to see if anyone picks up the thread. Or I'll slip in a reference to gardening or travel. My big aha is this. Life is richer and more fun when you share your singular life journey with kindred spirits. but you'll only unearth them by digging beneath the surface. Listening, leading with curiosity. As I always told my children, surround yourself with silver dollars, not pennies. And by this I mean, be intentional about who you allow into your life and who you spend your precious time with, because time, once spent, cannot be replenished. And at this age, we certainly see that more clearly than we did perhaps decades ago. I have a quote by the Buddha that hangs prominently in my home, and I see it multiple times a day, and it says this: "The trouble is, you think you have time." We will never have enough time. So spend your time with those who value what you value, who recognize and cherish the gifts you bring to the world, and the gifts in turn that shared with others beyond your circle. The recognition of this inner landscape was described well by C.S. Lewis when he wrote, "Friendship is born at that moment when one person says to another, 'What? You too?'" Now let me circle back to those first dates. 4 years ago, I went on one particular Sawubona first date that led to a second and a third and to an engagement. And I share that with you because it's evidence that love again is how I think of it. Love again, friendships, broadening your circle, finding your people is possible, but you have to have an open heart. And you have to reach out with curiosity and be open for that vibrational connection. And it's very easy as we get older to contract and let the difficult times. I have a whole book coming out December 6th, and Tanya's in it and Diana's in it. And it talks about a lot of this. But you have to not let yourself close down and be open. So Esther Perel said, "The quality of your life is ultimately dependent on the quality of your relationships." So is that not the truth? And my postscript, I have one postscript. When I met with Xanthi, I had 4 or 5 aha moments, and some of them were painful and grueling and very, but I wanted to land on something that, as I thought about it, paid tribute to you and to Diana, because this Quest community is fierce, it's extraordinary, it's wonderful. Where do you find a group of women who travel from all over the country or beyond, and you're here to help other women be successful, to help them be resilient, and to share your wisdom with them? It's you saying, "What, you too?" We are a group of that, and I am just honored to be among you. It's a joy. Thank you.